Chapter 10 Far East of Europe. Japan's isolation, closed doors in the East. While the 30 Years' War between Catholics and Protestants destroyed villages all across Europe, the shoguns of Japan were watching from a distance. The shoguns, like most of the Japanese people, were Buddhists. Catholic missionaries called Jesuits had come to Japan years before the 30 Years' War began. Although some Japanese listened, others were suspicious. The Jesuit missionary Francis Xavier wrote to his companions that one daimyo had driven him away, afraid that if he allowed his people to embrace the Christian religion, his whole dominion country would come to be despised by the natives. But other daimyo accepted Christianity. More missionaries came to Japan, and more Japanese became Christians. When Ieyasu, the first shogun of the Tokugawa dynasty, took power, he became worried about this foreign religion, and about the foreigners who were entering Japan to spread its beliefs. So Ieyasu turned to his Western advisor, William Adams, and asked, "What do you think of these Jesuit missionaries?" He was asking the wrong man. William Adams was a loyal Protestant. He had arrived in Japan as a crewman on a Dutch merchant ship, and Ieyasu had asked him to stay and help the Japanese government deal properly with the Europeans who came to Japan to trade. Adams hated Catholicism, so he warned Ieyasu to beware of all Catholic missionaries. When a Spanish ship came to Japan and its crew began to make maps and measurements of Japanese ports, Adam told Ieyasu to watch out for invasion. "First come merchants," he told Ieyasu. "Then they will send missionaries and Jesuits, and then their army will follow. This is how Spain conquers other countries." Ieyasu believed Adams. He was afraid that if Catholic Spanish soldiers did invade, Japanese who had become Catholics would be unwilling to fight against them. So as Ieyasu's power grew, he slowly made Christianity more and more unwelcome in Japan. 12 years after his first triumph in battle, he announced that Japanese could no longer become Catholic Christians. 2 years later, he passed a law ordering that all foreign missionaries be driven from the country. When Ieyasu died, his son, Hidetada, the next Tokugawa shogun, made even more laws against Christianity. By now, the 30 Years' War had started. Over in Europe, the Catholic Holy Roman Emperor was taking over other countries in the name of Catholicism. Hidetada had no intention of allowing this to happen in his country, too. He ordered Japanese Christians executed. Catholic priests who wouldn't leave the country were thrown into jail. When Hidetada's son Ieyasu began to rule alongside of him, an even more extreme law was passed. Ieyasu didn't want the Japanese to travel to other countries, learn about Christianity, and bring this religion, and the unrest it was causing over in Europe, back to Japan. So he decreed that the Japanese could not travel any further west than the country of Korea, just across the water. And he executed many Christians who lived in Nagasaki, the southern port city where most foreign merchants docked their ships. Yet Christianity continued to spread. As a matter of fact, in the large, important city of Nagasaki, there were more Christians than Buddhists. So the shogun Ieyasu took the most drastic step of all. He closed Japan. Ieyasu declared that no ships could come in or out of Japanese ports. Shipbuilders were forbidden, on pain of death, to make any ship large enough to travel on the ocean. Any Japanese citizen trying to return to Japan from another country would be put to death, to prevent him from bringing foreign ideas into the country, and any Japanese man or woman trying to leave the country would be executed. Ieyasu's severe laws caused a revolt. Christians at Shimabara near Nagasaki, where thousands of Japanese had already been executed, banded together to fight against the shogun's edicts. But the Shimabara uprising was doomed. The Christians were driven into a nearby castle, where they ran out of food, water, and weapons. When the Shimabara rebels finally surrendered, they were put to death. Iemitsu wasn't finished making laws. Now he passed a new set of restrictions. No European traders, except for the Protestant Dutch, were allowed to trade with Japan. Even the Dutch were only allowed to send one ship per year, and they weren't able to land on Japan's shores. Instead, they had to dock their ships at a tiny artificial island in the Nagasaki harbor, built specifically for them. They could never set foot on Japanese land. For the next century, the Japanese were cut off from Western ideas and Catholic missionaries. Instead of Christianity, Buddhism flourished. A kind of Buddhism called Zen became particularly powerful. Zen Buddhists believed that wisdom came from the inside, not from outside teaching or travel to foreign lands. So Zen Buddhists didn't make pilgrimages or listen to preaching. Instead, they meditated, waiting for wisdom to be revealed in their own souls. Because Zen Buddhists believed that truth could be found in the smallest, simplest places, the Japanese became experts at small and beautiful arts. They made tiny miniature landscapes of sand and pebbles, grew tiny dwarf trees called bonsai, and built beautiful, simple gardens for meditation. For the next century, Japan and Zen Buddhism continued to flourish, far away from Europe. Japan had closed its doors to the outside and had turned inward instead.